Hi guys, I'm Ariana. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to
Nice to
meet
meet
you.
you.
So I only have the season finale left, so I'm
Oh,
invested.
wow.
Yes.
So no spoilers is what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, in my head, I know a lot, but there will be no spoilers in this interview. But what was very interesting in the first episode, and I'm like, oh, we're going to go here. So the story is about this man who stole artifacts, culture, and history from a lot of groups and just the generational curse that happens about it. And that's obviously not common in children's animation or even really talked about amongst adults. Why did you guys decide to go with this storyline?
Should we just show? Okay,
go for it, Coop.
No joke. This is a picture of my grandfather as a child. And we've joked in my family, his all the males in the family, his sons-in-law all died before they were 50. And my cousin found this in his family photo. I'm like, yep, figured out where the curse came from. Literally have no explanation, but Jeff and I started talking about that. And well, we have different backgrounds, and this seemed like an idea that fit perfectly where we came from. Jeff, do you want to talk about our meeting coming together?
Yeah, I mean, just to answer your question on that one, it did come from Coop and I both have been friends for a while because we met through our kids at our kids' school, and we both were screenwriters, but we definitely had different backgrounds. I definitely came from the horror world. He's more in the family and entertainment and comedy world, and we were always kind of thinking what is something we could maybe work on together, because we just kind of had our own careers going, and this just seemed like an idea that would merge the two of our kind of worlds in the same way. And at the same point, because that's just kind of the way we think, try to say something along with it.
Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, if you think about the background of any object that's cursed, there's a backstory to it. Mm-hmm. And you have to make right by it. So it literally just kind of flowed logically from a family's cursed artifacts, where you go, and it's just fascinating where if you just follow the logic, it tracks.
Yeah, and we always joked that we took a lot of the idea of Raiders of the Lost Ark about our joke that our show is Raiders of the Lost Ark or Indiana Jones in reverse. We're not going around and getting stuff. We have the stuff and we got to put it back. But the other thing that we always took from that was Indiana Jones would always say that belongs in a museum. And we would always think about how kind of dated that is, because yeah, some things do belong in a museum, but most of the time, where does it really belong? So we just, once we get an idea that's in our heads, there's no getting rid of it. And so we just kept going and going down that route.
Yeah. Why did you decide for it to be a family of color that was going on this journey?
Frankly, that was Chris and Justin Copeland are consulting producers on it, and they had brought up the concept. And we're like, you know what? You're right. That actually makes things more interesting, and it makes things more like the world. Mm-hmm. And then also, I think it, Leo, it kind of hits home for you too.
Well, it certainly makes it more relevant for me.
Yeah, Leo, I wanted to ask you a bit about the animation. So Russ and Pandora have locks. What was it like to animate that type of textured hair?
What was it like? I think coming up with the visual look for the hair was it was a process. We just tried a bunch of different things and then kind of finally landed where we did, because it kind of worked with the style, overall look of the show. Yeah, I think that was it ultimately, and it worked for the design. So yeah, but it was definitely, we took some time to figure it out. It took some doing.
Yeah, and why did you decide to go with that animation style? I'm not an animator, but to me, it's kind of like a comic book that came to life that has movement.
I think that's really it, was the idea. A lot of the influence was came from the EC comics, the sort of, as a horror reference, immediately visually you would be able to identify that. But then I think also then to see how that kind of the style translated into an animated form, it just kind of, that just seemed to organically, yeah, just kind of work the best. It just kind of, you see it move and you go, that feels right.
Yeah, speaking kind of the horror influences, what were some of your guys' influences? Like when I watched it, it kind of made me think of Jumanji and Addams Family. Those were kind of like the vibes that I was getting.
Jeff, do you want to go?
Well, yeah.
The guy wearing the Motel Hell t-shirt?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because there's a lot of different references as far as, okay, what's our actual age bracket reference? And then that was more of the, like, you know, Paranorman or we always hate to say this, but you can't not reference an updated kind of nowadays version of a type of Scooby-Doo. So it's not something we really want to connect with because it is its own animal, but you can't also deny that there's a little bit of groundwork that was there. But one of the things that we always loved, and this is going to sound a little bizarre, but we actually looked at stuff from like some Giallo films, like Suspiria, and like the way they use color. And I know Leo and David and Coop and I really discussed pretty deeply visual references, camera, rack focus references, POV shots. Like we even talked initially about some Sam Raimi stuff. So I mean, there's a lot of horror touchstones throughout, some of which you probably are like, yeah, of course, episode 2, when Larry's going down the skull, it's like The Shining and Danny and the tricycle. And then there's other ones where you're like, oh, I didn't catch that one at all. But then if you point it out, then, so there's quite a bit of both visual and storytelling.
And by the way, that goes hand in hand with the style too, the 3D that looks 2D. You have a 2D comic book look, but with it being 3D, that's how you're able to do camera moves and rack focus and stuff that you would never be able to really do in 2D. So like the function and the form mixed together well with the horror too.
Yeah, something that Leo did just so utterly genius is that it looks cinematic. It doesn't look like a normal, just like kids cartoon. It looks like a cinematic adventure. It looks very adult for the and I think that's the thing that we're just always grateful for him bringing that.
Yes. Speaking of adults, I feel like usually in children's show, or if kids are going on an adventure, like the parents are in the dark and like, oh, I was just cooking while you were in Malaysia or something of that nature. Why did you decide to have Skye come along for the ride and be in on this journey?
I mean, there's actually kind of an easy answer to that, but it's easy to Coop and I. But so we always thought about that because we're both very family-oriented people. We both we came up with the idea while our kids were going to the same school. We were building sets for our girls at the local theater, and we just are very family-oriented people. So to us, it was just like, yeah, it's a family adventure. It just was second nature to us. So we always kind of wanted that. It wasn't until later that we realized how unique it was to not have the adults normally on the adventure. So in a weird way, we thought about it, but didn't think about it as a unique way. We just thought it was like, yeah, it was natural. This is what families do,
Well, and it's a family curse. They're all in on it.
Yes. What would you say is kind of your favorite artifact or your favorite character on the show?
Well, I can say my favorite artifact are the Olmec babies because my kids are triplets. And that entire episode was based upon what it's like to have triplets. And by the way, yeah, they did run away in a museum. So that.
For me, it's the puzzle box because it's our own little nod to the Hellraiser box. And I just think that the way it turned out visually and story-wise, I just absolutely love.
Yes. What about you, Leo?
I'm thinking about it, and I would probably say that I don't know. I think I like the baboon, the golden head. I think just because I think part of it was just when it's basically the kickoff for how the whole show kind of works. So it's hard for me to separate out like the significance of the artifact from the significance of how it operates or how it made the show or operates for the show. How would I say that? Yeah,
storyline and kind of kicks it off.
Yeah, it kicks it off. It's like where everything kind of starts.
Yeah, my favorite is Stanley because he's such a cutie.
Oh, that's a good call.
But what's interesting about the show, and like when I watch shows, when I'm going to do an interview, I'm always writing notes. And in the beginning, I'm like, oh, the rule is that they have to take it back. And then each episode is just like, no, it's a puzzle. It's a mystery. Like, I feel like every episode, the rules change. Like, why did you decide to go for that approach?
For that exact reason.
Yeah. It's exactly, we talked about this very early on, that we didn't want to just have a return artifact to the same place, because a lot of times, especially with artifacts, you don't know where it came from, or the place it came from has been destroyed and is not there anymore. So we're like, that just opens it up to, instead of just, it's simpler to just return it. It's a lot more tricky to figure out what you actually have to do right by it. And sometimes that's not always returning it. So we just wanted to add some complexity.
Yes. A question that I love to ask people in general, but obviously people who also work in animation. If you were an animated character, for some reason, probably for consistency reasons, you wear the same outfit every single day, what would be your animated outfit?
Well, mine would involve shorts with a different shirt every day. Jeff would be a different horror.
Yeah,
shirt.
it'd be hard because I have like 100 horror shirts that I cycle through. So it's like, if I had to pick one, it would probably be my Suspiria t-shirt.
Leo, what about you?
Me, I guess it would be some sort of a pro wrestling baseball cap and some thick brim glasses.
Keeping it consistent. You guys have such an amazing voice cast. How did that kind of come about?
The casting department was fantastic.
They literally told us early on, they're like, tell us, doesn't matter. Tell us who would be some shoot for the sky. So it was a combination of us throwing out some names that we never thought we'd get, and we did, and them actually bringing some names that we would have never thought in a million years that we're like, we can get them. And they're like, yeah. So it was a combination of the amazing DreamWorks casting people and some of the people that Coop and I kind of had in mind. It was a little combination.
Yeah, and John Krasinski is an EP on this. How did he become a part of this show?
You know what? It's funny. It was actually when we were in development, and someone was like, you know what? He would actually be an interesting insight into that because he's done comedy, he's done horror. And it was really interesting when we first met with him and talked to him about the idea. The thing that he kept on driving home to us was for Quiet Place for him, kind of going back to your why is Skye involved in this? Mm-hmm. For him, he was always talking about how important the family was to A Quiet Place. Mm-hmm. That it was horror because it was a family and you were concerned for the whole family.
Yes.
And it was really interesting that we kind of all bonded over that concept, where it was sort of like, oh, okay, yes, we are going down the right path with this.
And he did have 2 kids that he said are the prime age for this type of material that he wanted them to see as well.
Yes, I have a 3-year-old niece whose current favorite movie is Gremlins and loves Scooby-Doo. So I think this is like perfect.
Interesting. She's good with Gremlins at 3. That's pretty intense for 3.
I love it.
Yes, she's a very sophisticated child, and she's going to be Stripe's sister because she wants to be a girl for Halloween. So it's very
amazing.
Too yet.
Yes, yes. But it seems for like this show that you've obviously all have worked on such big projects, but that it was just lightning in the bottle and everything you wanted, you got and more. What was it like to be able to go on this journey? And it seemed to go relatively beautiful and easy for you guys.
It was honestly a dream come true. I mean, we really do have the greatest crew in the entire world. Like we kept, every time someone new would come on, it would be like, okay. They've just fit in perfect. It was just lightning in a bottle is the right term for it, because it really this doesn't happen that often. It was just perfect.
You know, and it was really interesting when we were interviewing people. You know how you only realize something after the fact?
Mhm.
But when we just have interviews, we would just talk about the idea, and it didn't matter what you were doing, writer, lighting, special effects, they would start coming up with ideas, just riffing off things, and you're like going, oh, this is relatively easy because people are coming up with just great ideas that just want to contribute. So that made things remarkably easy.
Passion.
Yeah.
We wanted people with passion, because we have a lot of passion, and everybody on the project brought a lot of passion.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for talking about this. I'm on the edge of my seat for what's about to happen to Stanley and Larry.
We're excited for you to see.
Yes. So I look forward to talking to you about this and future projects, and congrats and happy Halloween.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
you.
You have a great one. Thanks, you guys.